The Dallas Mavericks fall to the Washington Wizards. What has to change? Talk about that and more on today's Locked On Mavs.
I'm Luka Doncic, and this is Locked On Mavericks.
How about 10 Mavericks NBA champions? Bang! It's good!
And the Mavericks have won the game!
If you don't believe, you shouldn't be here.
Loyalty never fades away.
And welcome. You are locked on to the Dallas Mavericks. My name is Nick Angstadt, media member and NBA channel manager for the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen each and every day. Remember, Locked On Mavs is free and available on all podcast platforms, including YouTube. But the best way you can help us grow the show is to comment anything below. Let us know what's one thing the Mavs need to change going forward. Ooh boy. This episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. And joining me, as always, my co-host, writer, and contributor at Mavs.com, the playing for something son, the one more thing king. What you got for me, Isaac Harris?
Listen, we're podding for something over here.
We are. Locked On Wizards, they're not podding for anything over there.
I get to do a podcast with an MVP.
Oh!
We were one of the top, pods in the network last year. Made it to a conference finals.
That's not really true.
and some other pods are out there just podding to try to get some money.
Yeah.
And we do it for the love, and we're doing this right now.
They're just putting up shots. They're just putting up pods, just left and right.
Putting up pods.
That's not us. We're playing for something over here. Oh my gosh. Today's episode, we'll talk about the Dallas Mavericks loss to the Wizards, 127-126. And yeah, we were spoofing the Spencer Dinwiddie, Kyle Kuzma back and forth on Twitter. Dinwiddie in the postgame presser when he talked about the Wizards, that team's not playing for anything. Kuzma and his tweet that said, that team's playing like they're not playing for anything. Blah blah blah.
Can I go on record real quick and say that that's kind of a lame quote by Spencer after a loss? I think it's funny to take shots, and he obviously doesn't like those guys, but it's yeah, we just lost. So anyway, just had to say that.
You wanted to say that on the record and not the thing you said off the record?
No, I don't want to say that.
It is what it is. He doesn't like those guys. They called him a locker room cancer. They wanted him traded and all that. So the beef is real. The Dinwiddie Wizards beef is real. We'll hear from Spencer Dinwiddie a little bit later. He answered a couple of my questions after the game that I thought was really insightful. I love anytime you get to talk to Spencer Dinwiddie. He was great in our media day interview. You can go listen to that on YouTube. And he's really insightful stuff. Him and Luka had the same answer for what is wrong with the Mavericks defense. So we'll talk about that a little bit later and hear from Dinwiddie. But this Mavericks team, you score 126
It's incredible.
Points. It's incredibly inconsistent is what they are. The difference between this team playing against the Heat and this team playing against the Wizards, just those two games. How many days apart are these days? 1, 2, 3, 4 days apart. These two games. How different can this team look in 4 days? And that Clippers game in the middle where they didn't play that well either. It's wild how different the swings are for this Dallas Mavericks team. Why is that?
I still think, it's weird because on one hand, you're they're still trying to find their identity, but it's not even an identity thing. They have their,
they are?
I think they're still trying to find the combinations of, are you crying or is it really upsetting you?
I just can't believe that. Everyone needs to know their identity, their identity in basketball. I was blowing my nose.
You have your acoustic? No.
I do.
But it's they're trying to find the right combinations this year, and I just unfortunately the combinations don't exist on the roster. So I think we're just we're waiting to see what type of trade season is gonna be like for the Mavs and stuff. But you said it's the inconsistency. They lost two different ways these past two games with the Clippers and now this game. Going against the Clippers, great defense, but we're sitting on the pod saying, man, they could have used Christian Wood's offense in that game. They struggled on offense. This game, they put up 126 points and they lost. It's dang. Well, Yeah, I mean, you could have used Maxi's defense and stuff tonight. It's like they, how are you? They're kind of inventing new ways to lose, and you get kind of in the danger zone a little bit with that.
This team scored 126 points and only shot 33% from three. Only took 33s. It's just weird this game, because usually we're sitting here saying, and we did. You and I looked at each other and said, they got to take more threes. They only took 33s. The calculus for this Mavericks team is you just have to be so much better than the other team from the three-point line, the way that they're set up with this personnel. You just have to be so much better at that one thing because of the players you're playing with Tim Hardaway, Luka, Dinwiddie, Bullock, Dorian, even putting Davis out there. You just have to be so much better from three. And that one specific number has to be so much better that you win the game. And they didn't. They got out three-point shot by one. The Wizards made one more three-point shot, took the same amount of three-point shots, and that's the game. All the free throws and stuff aside, you could take that as it is, and we'll definitely talk about that. Dinwiddie will mention that when we hear from him. But that's how this team is set up. And like you said, there just isn't personnel. I looked at you before this and we were trying to prep for this episode, and I said, are there any roster or scheme changes this team can make? And it's there's probably some. There's probably ones that we're not smart enough to think about right now. But after watching this team for 49 games, there's not another rotation. You don't look at this rotation and say, all right, if they had played JaVale McGee, they would be better defensively, because we know what that would look like. We've seen it. Yeah. We've seen how bad the Twitter has beat the dead horse of JaVale McGee's a bad signing so many times. That horse is has lived too many lives.
My favorite thing. It's my favorite thing after losses.
It's okay, we get it.
Any loss,
we get it. It's a bad signing. We get it.
I bought some Tic Tacs today at Kroger, and they cost $1.28. And the Mavs signed JaVale for $5 million this offseason, so this sucks.
Jaden Hardy wouldn't have helped. Christian Wood wouldn't even help this game because the team needed to defend. Maxey would have helped for sure. That's an injury that you hope comes back. Christian Wood, you do hope comes back too, because maybe you score a little bit more even with Christian Wood. But the team
more than 126,
right? So this team, there's no rotation changes that can be made. I don't think it's personnel. It's who they have, and it's when Dinwiddie, I thought, had a good game, but when Tim Hardaway Jr. is your third best player, you're dealing with inconsistencies when you have those wings that are really good or really bad from three. When Luka is 0 for 4 from three, or he hits all of them, and he's going to score in his way, but he can be inconsistent at times too. That's just the kind of game that this team plays. And then defensively, there's all kinds of issues. There's so many issues inconsistent wise with this team. And we'll talk about that when we hear from Dinwiddie here in a minute.
You were talking about 3-pointers and free throws stuff. That's why you can't always look at these specific stats and be like, all right, that's what. How many times have we looked at a game and said, man, if they just drove more, look at their points in the paint, man. They need more points in the paint. They had 64 points in the paint tonight. Washington 48, but it's 64 of your 126 was in the paint. And you lost. And so it's you drove more. You didn't take as much, threes, because you only took 30 in the game. But I'll say this when it comes to changes. You could, if you want to just really shake something up and go into the next game and say, all right, we can't just do the exact same thing. You could look at it and say, all right, Tim or Spencer, you're going to go to the bench and Josh is going to start. And just lean into the Luka, you're just going to hold the ball. You're just going to do this. He already handles the ball a ton anyway, but just lean into, as long as Christian Wood's out, you got to start Dwight. Dorian, you got to start for defense. So then you just look at it and all right, you move Spencer to the bench, but Josh, that's a drastic change. Or do you go back from Tim to Red? Do you switch something up in the starting lineup, but you're still limited? Yeah,
that's the one kind of change you can make. It'd be Josh for Tim, I would think. I think Dinwiddie's playing well enough, and they've worked that rotation out well enough to where Luka and Dinwiddie are on the court. And thank the basketball gods, those two guys have been healthy this whole season for the most part to play, because what would happen if they were out. Coming up, let's hear from Spencer Dinwiddie. He had a great quote about being frustrated with the refs. The refs were extremely inconsistent in this game. It made the Mavs mad. Luka got a tech. Kidd got a tech, a rare tech for Coach Kidd. We'll talk about how the team deals with that coming up. But before we do, let's hear from FanDuel. Oh, yeah. We're really excited about a new sports betting partner for Locked On because they're the #1 sports book in America, FanDuel. You may live in a state right now where FanDuel is legal. They have brick and mortar store. If you live in Phoenix, Arizona, they have a brick and mortar store. You can literally go up and place a bet, get a drink, like hang out. It's pretty cool. New customers today, get started with $150 in free bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just sign up at FanDuel.com/lockedon. It's fun and easy. They have so many great features that make sports betting fun and easy. Go check it out. Go just check out FanDuelSportsbook.com. You can check out some of these NBA odds right now. Who do you think is #1 for Sixth Man of the Year right now on FanDuel?
Russell Westbrook.
Westbrook -140. Number 2.
No clue.
Malcolm Brogdon +240. I think he's going to win it. Norman Powell +900. Jordan Poole +2,000. Benedict Mathurin +2,000. Tyrese Maxey +2,500. That's how it's shaking out on FanDuel. You can go check out all kinds of other stuff too. NFL, everything else. Go check it out. It's FanDuel. And use the app. It's safe, secure, super easy to use. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports partner of the NFL. All right, Isaac Harris, thanks for making Locked On Mavs your first listen each and every day. And every post game, we're here for you. And we're here for you through the trade deadline. Deadline draft.
Let's go.
Trade deadline draft. We're doing a podcast literally every single day. I'll go full Chris Traeger on that one.
I'm going to go, it's not draft, it's dash.
What did I say?
You said full trade deadline draft. And I was like, I don't think we're drafting, but we are dashing.
Miles Turner to be traded. Deadline dash, where we've done this in years past, where we'll do a episode every single day up until the draft or the trade deadline or the playoffs or whatever. And we'll do it until the trade deadline. So every morning there will be a Locked On Mavs in your feed. All right.
Well, we'll do another trade pod, by the way. Got some tweets today about some Magic rumors and different stuff. So I'm sure we'll discuss those.
I'm falling like my bud.
Listen, I just want Jonathan Isaac on the Mavs so I can have a Devin Harris jersey back here, and then I could have a Jonathan Isaac jersey, and I could just have them next to each other, and it says my name. That's all I want.
Can someone get a customized Isaac jersey for Isaac just so he could?
And then I could just have them stand next to each other, and that could be like my Twitter header or something. It'd be awesome.
Nothing to do with the Mavs personnel. Just you literally just
don't care about any of that.
The aesthetic of the name on the jersey. Like you literally could care less about the player himself.
Just want my name on the jersey.
All right, let's hear from Spencer Dinwiddie. He's an incredible quote. Had great stuff to say. I asked him how does this team? What's the most frustrating thing when the refs are inconsistent? When Luka's getting frustrated? When Kid's getting frustrated? They both got texts. You can tell that they're visibly frustrated. Earlier in this post game, Eddie Sefko had asked him something about getting frustrated, and he's like, "Just come out and say it about the refs." Like Dinwiddie was like, "Just come out and say it." So I was like, "All right, I'm just gonna come out and say it." Like when the refs are inconsistent like this, what's the hardest part to deal with? And then I asked him, "What's the biggest struggle defensively?" He started to get into that. So let's hear. It's a little ways from Spencer Dinwiddie, but it's really good stuff. Here's Spencer Dinwiddie.
Would like not to give up those free throws, but even if you do. Right? You want to hold those guys to below average shooting because, like I said, he's going out there to shoot the ball. Like, we just got to get stops, man. Like, if we want to be who we want to be, we had to get stops. Like, and we did that last year, right? Like, I know I was only here for half the year, but we were, top 5, top 10 in defense. You know what I mean? Like, we could talk about, who's left and, who came in or all that other stuff. At the end of the day, that's the biggest difference. We still putting points on the board. We still got LD doing his thing. You know what I'm saying? We still got people making shots at the end of the day. Like, until we get back to that type of identity. And that's a team thing. I'm not even talking about coaches or nothing. That's like team-wise. You know what I'm saying? Myself included. Like, I got to do better rebounding, point of attack, talking on defense, all that stuff, right? Verticality at the rim, not fouling so much. And then everybody else has their things that they're supposed to do as well.
What's this team's biggest struggle defensively right now?
Everything. I mean, you name it. All right, as a guard, right? Point of attack, get into the ball, apply a little bit more ball pressure. When the big makes the call, get into the right positioning. You know what I'm saying? You want the big to call it early, right? Then if I'm weak side on the shooter, that means I got to be low man. Or if I'm on the bottom of the eye, if I'm at the top of the eye, I got to be high lift. It's all these different pieces and scenarios, and every person has a different job in that situation, and you just got to know your job. And if it breaks down, it breaks down. I got to keep playing, have effort on it. And I mean, if I sat here, I could go all night with like all the different scenarios of different things. But like I said, we just break down too much. Everybody, you know what I mean? It's not like we can sit here and be like, oh man, without X person, we gonna just be this, stopping team. Like, nah, like everybody got a little piece, a little bit, one more rebound to get, one more steal to get, one more charge to take, one more verticality at the rim, like maybe not reaching and giving them 2 more free throws. Like, I can't foul Bill on a 3, right? Like, whether I think it's a foul or not, at the end of the day, it's a foul, right? Like, so, look, my bad. Can't do that again. You know what I'm saying? And everybody got those plays. And if everybody got 2-3 of those plays, well, they get 127.
Ooh, let's start with the refs. What Spencer Dinwiddie said about the refs. I found it interesting that this team, they get up and down with the refs. We've talked about it a lot. It definitely affects Luka. I think it starts with Luka. He's the leader of the team. He's the straw that stirs the drink. He's the guy that everything works through. When Luka's getting frustrated with the refs, it's a trickle-down effect to the rest of the team, I think. It just starts affecting them. It affects them defensively. Luka's either not getting back on defense or is distracted playing defense and talking to the refs still, like during a defensive possession. This is one of the biggest problems this team deals with, and it's hard to pinpoint, all right, whose fault is this? Is it just on Luka? Dinwiddie said he's a grown man. Like, he can take care of himself earlier. And, is it on the coaching staff? Is it on, who is it on? Or is there just no veterans except for JaVale on this team that can say, hey, stop that. We gotta focus in. We gotta actually play.
Yeah, I mean, there's no Draymond, right? Like, there's no. I mean, realistically, if one of those dudes went and got in Luka's face, I mean, I don't think Luka's gonna be like, hey, thanks, cool, bro. Hey, move. Can I yell at you again? And like, he's just gonna like go past them. So, I just think it's gonna hopefully take just time with Luka, right? Like, we can sit here and say, all right, who's the guy on the sideline that's gonna yell at him and tell him, but it's like, he knows, like, when he's outside of a game, he talks about it and he's like, yeah, I gotta get better. I mean, he's openly talked about it. It's just once he gets in the game, we've talked about this a million times. This is a give and take of having a superstar that we love his emotions. We love when he's doing the air guitars and yelling at the crowd, but when things aren't going his way, he's going to argue too and throw a fit and make some funny, dumb faces and go and whine to Mark in the bench at times, like it's like parents of like, oh, can you imagine this? Like, look, he's like looking at him, like telling on the refs. It's sometimes, but I don't know if there's anything you can do unless you trade for a vet like a Draymond type or something like that has the pedigree, that has some rings, that has some, that when they talk, Luka's gonna like, oh, okay, I got to listen to this guy. Unfortunately, I just think it's time, though. I just think we're going to hopefully look at this in, a couple of years and be like, hey, remember those early young Luka years where literally every possession?
I mean, it's 5 years in.
Yeah, I'm being optimistic, Nick. So,
yeah, it's an issue this team is dealing with right now. It's one of those where you're like, all right, this is a problem that they have. They're just going to continue to have it. Either it's on coaching or it's not. The other part of this I found interesting is the defensive angle of it. I asked Dinwiddie, what's the biggest struggle this team has defensively? He said everything. And he started going through like each like responsibility he has. And one of the things that he pointed out was, okay, if I fail like 3 times and somebody else fails 3 times, and all of a sudden, and we all have a couple breakdowns here and there, then it all adds up. That's one of the problems with this all or nothing defense that this Mavericks team has, right? You go through the playoffs last year. Dinwiddie even said it. You go through the playoffs last year, and they were playing incredible defense. This team looks like they can beat anybody. And then all of a sudden, if the effort's not there, then you get beat by anybody, especially anybody missing a star on their team or like a max player on their team. And it just takes one piece of it to break down, right? It's not okay, well, if somebody breaks down, then everybody can recover for him, and then it's great, and you can work through it. It's like if one piece breaks down, the whole defense kind of crumbles. And so it's one of these, like, it's a helter-skelter kind of defense, it seems like at times. And this is the problem with this type of defense. This was kind of a problem Kidd's second year in Milwaukee that people were talking about. Now, what that defense did that this defense doesn't do is that defense blitzed a ton. That defense blitzed a ton at the point of attack. They doubled really quick off the ball. And then all of a sudden you're like, okay, well, you're just getting beat backdoor and getting beat a ton. This defense gets beat on its switches a lot because Luka switches on somebody or Tim switches on somebody or it's Dwight switching on a quick guard or it's, a bunch of dudes that just can't defend in multiple ways getting beat one-on-one at times or somebody being late on a rotation because it takes that intense focus on the rotations to play great defense. And so that's why when I asked Luka or I asked Dinwiddie and then later someone asked Luka the same question, what's the biggest problem that this team has defensively? He said the same thing. Everything. It's just everything. Like it's everything or nothing on this defense.
Did you have Luka, you said Luka postgame, he owned, like Luka does a lot. He's like, man, this game's on me. He did miss a clutch free throw. That was tough.
He said it was on him the last pass. The last pass for the final shot was set up, designed for Dinwiddie. Luka, they knew was going to get doubled, and they were just going to pass it quick to Dinwiddie, and he was going to take the shot. And Luka said he missed the pass, and so he said it was on him. I don't know if I believe him. He scored 40 points in this game, was doing everything for this team at times. And so you're like, well, I don't know if I'm just going to put everything on you. But coming up, let's talk about what things that this team can change. Let's talk about some other notes from this game, some other things that we saw, some observations. How did Josh Green play in this game? What do we think about the rotations and all that kind of stuff? We'll talk about that coming up. All right, Isaac Harris, we're back after a short Wi-Fi incident. Talk more about this game, talk about some of the things that we saw in this game, and then a couple more thoughts on the Wizards potential trades and stuff. Can we talk about the refs in this game? Because we talked about like the Mavs' response to it, which, the refs calling this game so inconsistently is not the reason why the Mavs lost. Dinwiddie was really clear on that after the game. You heard it in some of his comments. But this was one of the worst officiated games I think I've seen this year.
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out how much of it are the referees just bad, or do we just have more eyes on every single play that they do now more than ever? Were they this bad back in the 70s, but people just didn't have it? I mean, literally you can see every single play zoomed in, replays
right afterwards, literally the jumbotron I'm sitting in the arena and a call gets made and then all of a sudden literally you look up and you could see how bad the call was so quickly, HD, everything.
Yeah, and then you bring social media into that, and then just everybody, it feels like every night there's clips of bad fouls and stuff to where it's then you collectively see it and you're like, dang, ref. And I feel like you hear it every year. You see tweets about it every year. Man, officiating's just down this year. It's okay, well, every year feels like it's so. Yeah. I don't know how to feel about it. Tonight was a tough night though.
It was bad, and it's one of those where you just go, okay, well, they're just not calling the same thing on both ends either. I feel like Luka just gets trucked on plays and he doesn't get called. It's hey, he's getting the Harden oh, you try to trick us, and so we're not going to call things that are obvious because you think you're trying, the reverse psychology of Luka. I think we're at that point of it almost.
What did you think about the last play of the game? It's the
same play they've been running for every last play. It's the what are they? Is it elevators or what's the play where Luka basically runs a pin down and then Luka pops up and then Luka has the ball and then it's the same thing they've been running for final. It hasn't worked, right? Am I wrong? It's the same play.
Yeah, they went back to it. I think that's the biggest. I think that's the biggest thing is
they went. That's one way to put it.
Well, they went back to it back to back, and I guess you could do the whole hey, this is what they won't think, that we'll do the same play again.
This is there's an episode of Brooklyn Nine-Nine where Jake Peralta is going rock paper scissors against somebody, and he's like, all right, here we go, one more time, rock, and he always Rosa's you always do paper, and she is just continuing to do scissors every time. He's like, all right, one more time. He's like always doing rock. Like one time it's going to work. And it's just like, no, it's not. You're just going to keep doing rock and they're just going to keep doing scissors. It's just going to you're going to keep losing.
It wasn't as bad as the Cowboys' last play of the season.
No.
But it was like,
I'm going to push back on that.
No. Oh, stop. No. Stop.
Isaac,
that Cowboys last play of the season was one of the funniest, dumbest plays I've ever seen in my entire life.
Isaac, Dak completed the pass.
No. They set up and put Lyman on and put Zeke.
Mavs didn't even get a shot off. They didn't even get a shot off.
They lined Zeke up at center twice. They lined it all up in the dumb formation.
At least Dak completed a pass.
Congrats on completing a pass that was
That's at least
7 yards whenever you needed like 80.
That's more successful than what the Mavs did tonight in their final play where they turned it over.
That's like saying, well, at least Luka dribbled. Well, congrats. He needed
if they got
score.
If they got a shot off is what I would say. If they got a shot off, at least that'd be something.
Okay.
But like they didn't even get that.
Play was horrific.
Oh, I mean, they're both bad. I mean, we're talking
but
about
I got the vibes of it though, of like, oh, cool. That's how this game just ended.
all the complaining, all the popcorn that was spilt, all the everything. Was there any? I mean, let's talk about the few bright spots, right? It's like one of the few bright spots is Dwight Powell played amazing.
Yeah,
Dwight played 22 points. He's the second best Mavs player. I would even consider him or Dinwiddie, but like 22 points, 9 boards, 4 of them on the offensive end. He goes to the free throw line 7 times.
But that's the type of stuff though. Like, however good you feel like Dwight is, that other centers in the league that I'm looking at and saying, all right, Dwight Powell just put up 22 in this system, in this offense as the big man playing with Luka.
Yeah.
Like any center in the league could, I mean, not to discredit Dwight, but it's like
not any center.
No. I meant like any like quality starting center.
JaVale McGee.
No, I said quality starting center. I thought it would be JaVale, but it's like I feel like there's a lot of centers out there that could, I would look at the situation and be like Mitchell Robinson's, the Jakob Pertls,
if they had somebody like
JaVale McGee.
Goodness. That's all we wanted from JaVale, just be a little bit better than Dwight.
Do you know they paid JaVale $5 million a year?
Do you know
I didn't know if
the equivalent of 9 billion sticks of gum? Yeah. I thought Josh Green made an impact, which is why we were talking in the first segment. One of the changes they can make is put Josh Green in the starting lineup. Made 2 threes, 7 of 9 from the field. He had some foul trouble. He's had foul trouble a little bit here and there, but it's because he's aggressive. He's going out if you defended aggressively in this game, you had 6 fouls or 5 fouls or at least 4. You had to. Everybody was just getting called for fouls. Gafford fouled out in 18 minutes, and the Mavs scored 64 points in the paint. Right, like they were being aggressive, and he was defending. I thought Josh Green played a good game, and I think he should start. I think he should start over Tim. Tim's not giving me enough in any facet of the game consistently enough to start.
Yeah, the tough part about that is they just like playing Tim with Luka, but I think I would do that shake up though. Put Tim,
Why?
No. Put Josh in for Tim and let's roll with it. Yeah, I don't have much else to say about this game. It was a super short man rotation again. I mean, a 7-man rotation. Davis played 12 minutes if you want to say he was the 8th man, but that's pretty much it. There you go. I forgot about Frank.
The Wizards don't seem to be done making moves. Seems like they're going to make one more move if they want to re-sign Kuzma, which Kuzma played really well in this game.
Monty Morris, come on down to Dallas. Just stay here.
I like our Monty Morris Gafford for Christian Wood trade. If the Mavs are going to have to trade Christian Wood because they don't want to re-sign him, then Gafford and Monty Morris, let's do it.
Yeah, that'd be interesting to me. I wonder how. Yeah, because Dwight's an expiring, and then Gafford, his extension starts next year, so that could be like your new version of Dwight stuff. Because then if Dwight was still going, you're like, all right, we're gonna pay like $22 million for
2 backup centers.
Gafford and Dwight type thing. But yeah, is there any world in which you would be interested in a Brad Beal trade?
Woof.com is what I say to that. Brad Beal's getting paid $57 million 5 years from now. So think about the Brad Beal you have right now and think about the one you'll have in 5 years. Like, of course, you look at Brad Beal and say, okay, that's a talent upgrade for the Mavs. That's a talent upgrade for the Mavs, for sure.
If you're listening to this as a senior in high school and you'll be out of college when Brad Beal's contract is up, shoot us a tweet. I want to know.
Or if you're like in the middle of having a baby, like your spouse is pregnant or you are pregnant
in the hospital,
and your child will, like, somewhere along the line, your child will be in kindergarten by the time that deal is done. Your child will be going to school by the time that deal is done.
If any of y'all have ever listened to us in the hospital, like in a labor room, let me know. Delivery room. I'd love to know that.
Yeah, that'd be interesting. Let us know. Yeah, I mean, that's one of those where, like, what would you even give up? Like, I'm not giving up first for Brad Beal. I'm sorry.
No,
I'm not. Like, you're taking on that contract. That's a contract nobody wants to pay for.
I think the only way I would like listen to the phone call is if Washington's looking at it saying, "Hey, Brad wants to go somewhere else.
Listen, we screwed up.
we want to re-sign Kuzma. This sounds bad. We want to build around Kuzma and KP.
Yeah. Do it, Washington.
KP looked good tonight, though. Beard, suit, all that. Tribute video.
He's grown up. He's grown up and he's left the nest.
I'm going to say this, too. I think people look over some of the KP stretches in Dallas and they forget about him. There were some good stretches there for a few months.
That's the tribute video talking. That's the emotion of the tribute video talking through you. Because I was watching it too, and I was like, "Dang, there was some good moments with KP and Luka." And remember the bubble? When he was scoring 30 points a game in the bubble, and like, oh, remember at the end of the tenure, we were like, "Oh, he's finally playing really good defense," and like.
It was ready for the
remember he was wearing
over,
street clothes tonight. Remember he was like that. That was one of the reasons why they traded him.
No, it was ready to be over. I mean, that was very clear. But I think the only way I'd be interested in Brad Beal deal is if Washington's looking at it saying, "Hey, we just want to get off the contract. Like, we don't want to pay somebody $50 million." And they call up Dallas and they're like, "Hey, are there like three pieces? Like, would you do a 3-piece combo meal?"
The Wizards do the Porzingis trade that the Mavs did, but back to the Mavs with Beal. It's like, all right, Tommy Shepard's just going to preach flexibility over and over again.
Yeah. Then Nico walks in and says, "Hey, Spencer, we're trading you to Washington, play with Kuzma." And,
no. Beal's coming here to play with you. What if it was they have to send Davis back in that deal for Brad Beal? They just don't have they don't have enough salaries to make it work if they don't.
Tim, Davis, and JaVale for Brad Beal. Do you do it?
If I'm the Wizards, no. Just roll with what you got.
Yeah.
They gotta sell tickets and they gotta sell pink jerseys somehow.
What a core to be committed to, though. Selling your fan base on, hey, we got a big three.
It's the
Brad
worst
Beal,
version
Kuzma,
of
KP.
Gilbert Arenas, Larry Hughes, and Antoine Jameson that they did in 2005. That team at least went to the second round.
Which one's more likely to pull out a gun out of those three?
I don't want to play this game. I don't want to play this game anymore. I'm done. I'm checking out.
I'm done with the pod.
I'm done. We're out, guys. Thanks for listening to Locked On Mavs.
He's out.
Boom. No, not boom. Different boom.